بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وله. Last time we stopped by verse number 15. So inshallah we'll continue today from 16 inshallah. As usual, we'll begin by a recitation of the passage and then inshallah we open the floor. It's chapter Surat Anbyaa, chapter number 21, verse number 16. Surat Anbyaa, chapter number 21. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما خلقنا السماء والأرض وما بينهما لاعبين. لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا لاتخذناه من لدنا إن كنا فاعلين. بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل فيدمغه فإذا هو زاهق ولكم الويل مما تصفون. وله من في السماوات والأرض ومن عنده لا يستكبرون عن عبادته ولا يستحسرون. يسبحون الليل والنهار لا يفترون. أم اتخذوا آلهة من الأرض هم ينشرون. لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا فسبحان الله رب العرش عما يصفون. لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. أم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة قل هاتوا برهانكم هذا ذكر من معي وذكر من قبلي بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون الحق فهم معرضون. وما أرسلنا من قبلك من رسول إلا نوحي إليه أنه لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدون. صدق الله العظيم. So a rough translation before we open the floor, inshallah. وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاءَ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَاعِبِينَ. These heavens, we haven't created we haven't created the heavens and the earth. We haven't created heaven and earth just for fun, if you wish. We haven't created the heaven, the earth, what is between them, just for fun or in play. لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا لاتخذناه من لدنا إن كنا فاعلين. If we are really after fun or after play, we wouldn't have needed you for this. We would have found our own ways of doing that. If we are really interested in these things, but we are not, obviously. That's the divine, the royal we. Allah speaks here. بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل فيدمغه فإذا هو زاهق. But we strike falsehood with truth. فإذا هو زاهق. Falsehood would quickly vanish after it gets struck by the truth. وَلَكُمُ الْوَيْلُ مِمَّا تَصِفُونَ. You will have to face the consequences of the way you describe Allah. وَلَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Everything in the heavens and on earth belong to Him. ومن عنده لا يستكبرون عن عبادته ولا يستحسرون. Those who are with him, they never feel that they are too superior to worship him. ولا يستحسرون, and they never get tired of worshipping him. يسبحون الليل والنهار لا يفترون. By day and by night, they glorify him. No disconnection, no fatigue. أم اتخذوا آلهة من الأرض هم ينشرون. Have they taken lords or gods besides him that have the capacity to give life back to the dead? لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. If there were gods besides him, the heavens and the earth would have been in chaos. فسبحان الله رب العرش عما يصفون. Allah, the Lord of the throne, is far above what they claim. لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. He is never to be questioned. He is never to be taken to account for what he does. He is never to be questioned for what he does. But they are to be questioned. أم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة. Have they taken gods besides him? قل هاتوا برهانكم. So if bring you proof that there are gods besides him. هذا ذكر من معي وذكر من قبلي. I have my own proof. What is my proof? My proof is this book and the books of the people of the book that were before us. The Torah and the Gospel. بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون الحق فهم معرضون. But many of them don't know the truth. That's why they end up turning away from it. وما أرسلنا من قبلك من رسول إلا نوحي إليه أنه لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدون. But from our side, we've never sent a messenger before you except that we reveal with him that there is no God but Allah, so worship him. Inshallah, we'll pause here. As normal, we have 1 or 2 minutes of silent reflection to answer one key question, which is, think of one word or one sentence or one verse that captured your attention, if you wish, and tell us what it is. You have 1 or 2 minutes, inshallah. As we always say, it doesn't have to be a sophisticated thing. Just something that you feel that I'm reacting to this. I liked this. I'm got inspired by that. Shall we begin with that? Oh, okay. لو أردنا. Interesting. حافظ. Okay. تحميد. Bilal? Same as Bilal? Okay. Mustafa. وما بينهما. Okay. Your name is? What's your name? Musa. What a nice name. Okay. Mohammed. كل هذا. زين. عبد الله. What's your name? Abdullah. Nice to meet you. وما خلقنا السماء. Abdul Hakim. The same. Okay. Great mind. Think like. Yeah. Ali. Same as Bilal. لو أردنا. MashaAllah, this verse has been picked 3 times. Okay. We have no sisters? Okay. I'd go for لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. Okay. Okay, sure. Okay. ومن عنده لا يستكبرون. Great. Bilal, any thoughts? Why did you pick this word? That's a good answer. That's a good answer. And this verse, or the thing, probably the most difficult one to understand in this context is probably this verse. What does it mean? The first verse is saying, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاءَ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَاعِبِينَ. We haven't created all this in vain. لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا, if we are really after this, after fun, after play, لاتخذناه من لدنا. The verse, the whole point here is simply Allah is saying, if I am after fun, the whole, okay, first of all, the first verse is trying to establish the idea of intentionality or purposefulness. We do things on purpose. We don't do things randomly. I do things for a wisdom. That's one of Allah's names, Al-Hakim. Right? Al-Hakim does not do things arbitrarily or randomly. The next verse is saying, لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا. If I am after enjoying myself, like, okay, one way of looking at this, what is Allah doing with all this creation? Could it be that He's just playing? He's just doing this for fun? He's saying, if I am after fun, I wouldn't have needed to create you. I would have been able to enjoy myself on my own ways. لَاتَّخَذْنَاهُ مِن لَدُنَّا. But I wouldn't have needed to do all this just for the sake of fun. And then he says, "In kunna," if this is, which is Allah is saying, this is even I am really conceding to your way of thinking. Otherwise, it's absurd enough to think that a wise Lord would do this for fun. So he says, if I am okay, let's concede for the sake of argument. Would I, it doesn't make any sense for me to create all this with these every single human being is a story in himself and herself. Do I really have to do all this? If I'm after enjoyment, if I'm after entertainment, definitely I would have been able to entertain myself without needing you, because that's the idea of need here. It's as if they are saying you needed us to enjoy yourself. So I'm far above any need, and I wouldn't have made all this just for the sake of entertainment or for the sake of fun or for the sake of play. Does this make sense? Richard. Do for trade? No, it doesn't make sense. Okay, sure. Absolutely, absolutely. حاضر. You had لاعبين in contrast to فاعبدون. Hmm. 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 Interesting. Interesting. So, are you saying basically that these verses are taken and are telling us that we have to be dedicated? We have to be that we shouldn't be just people who play. We shouldn't people be. Is that what you're saying? So what are we? Oh, okay. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's literally the highest human aspiration. The highest human aspiration is to become godly. And please don't confuse godly with becoming divine. Godly is not becoming. It's possible to become divine, as we Muslims believe this. But we should never forget that the highest human aspiration is to become godly. What the Quran calls ربانيون ولكن كونوا ربانيين, to become godly. What does that mean? To become centered. Everything that you do gets inspired by Allah. To basically go by the divine ethics, if you wish. Allah is merciful, and then I need to practice mercy as much as I can. Allah is wise. Of course, my capacity can never be compared to His capacity, but as much as I can, with the limitations that I have. Allah is, Alim. He is all knowing. Then I need to expand my knowledge. Right? We know we had a discussion before on the divine names. And we've divided the divine names into three categories: Asma'ul Jamal, wa Asma'ul Jalal, wa Asma'ul Kamal, the names of beauty and the names of majesty and the names of perfection. The differences between these, perhaps we can come to them at some other point. But there are certain names of Allah that we need to copy, we need to emulate. And there are certain names that we need to really, actually do the opposite. If Allah calls himself Al-Mutakabbir, the one who is prideful, if you wish, then we need to be humble. There are attributes of Allah that are of this nature. So, as I said, I do not have. Let's dedicate another discussion to the divine names. That's another thing. But the highest human aspiration as a whole is to become godly. Where did we get this from? That's the whole concept of khilafah, becoming God's representatives on earth. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I am placing a successor on earth. How would you be a successor of Allah without emulating it, without trying to take of His ethics, justice, mercy, wisdom, knowledge, all these things? That's literally the highest human aspiration. And that's why, prophets are of this highest station, because they themselves reflect the highest human manifestation of being, able to really reflect what Allah, the ethics of Allah, if you wish. Okay? So yes, absolutely. If you read this verse, you're not meant to be taking things playfully. You meant, and as if ibadah, yes, ibadah, and thank you for thinking of this, Ya Hafiz. Ibadah has a sense of, okay, لاعبين had a sense of void. It's literally void, and فاعبدون, ibadah is a sense of dedication, a sense of, you know, fullness. Someone who's full is not empty from the inside. That's what ibadah does to us. It fills us with meanings, if you wish. Great. We might find the answer with Tahmid. What is this? Hmm. 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 Interesting. But you picked this verse, which the one that Bilal picked. What is in it? You picked the next one. Oh, okay. No problem. No problem. Yeah, absolutely. No problem. Let's see. Who's inshallah. Maybe Ali. Mustafa. وما بينهم. Hmm. Hmm. Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like Hafid said, it does drive the sense of, what does that mean for me? I'm meant to be purposeful. I'm meant to be intentional. I'm meant to be deliberate in what I do. You shouldn't be just, daydreaming as you go about things. By virtue of Allah being like that, being, not playing with His time, not playing with, yeah. Hmm. Absolutely. Mhm. Definitely. Intention is a really, really big thing in Islam. Definitely. I mean, as we all know, first hadith of Bukhari, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Actions are by intentions. So everything begins with the intention. And we, unfortunately, don't even pay much attention to it. But it does clear our minds. Yeah, Musa. Hmm. Hmm. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I mean, I'm liking the fact that trying to really look at the modern application of this. What does that mean in our own today's terms? Um, Absolutely. How do I revive meanings in a world that is full of materiality and faults, as simple as that? Allah is telling us that, the more you find meaning in things, and that the truth by definition will triumph over false stuff. Absolutely. Ahmad. Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Bring your proof. People today talk about scientific method, how we think scientifically. The, at the essence of the scientific method today that we, become proud of it, is the idea of justification. How do I justify my beliefs? Do I just accept because I've been told? Do I accept because it's common or popular? Asking for a proof. Even, Allah is asking for a proof against him. That's how serious this is. That's a big thing. The Quran is literally advancing. I don't know, scientific is a small word to really describe what Allah is doing here. Is just that's that is how authoritative this Quran is. Like, okay, Allah is again conceding to these mindsets. If you can't think of, all I want from you is a proof. The fact that you are not just repeating things without really knowing what the meanings they carry on. So the idea of justification, the Quran's emphasis on this, many scholars have already written this, like the Quran as the book that has moved humanity from antiquity into modernity, if you wish. And this almost has been proven, more recent years, in terms of intellectual history. Muslims' role, and by definition the Quran's role, in moving humanity from unscientific thinking into scientific thinking. I use the word scientific in the generic sense of it, as in how do I think methodically? You have you have this word, epistemology, right? That's the highest thing you can achieve in terms of knowledge. What does epistemology mean? I'd say a bit more about this. You have epistemology and you have ideology. Ideology is simply when you believe, which is a system of beliefs, if you wish, a set of beliefs that you inherit them with literally with no methodology, right? I believe this because my family, my background, my culture, all this is ideology. Methodology is what really takes you out of ideology into methodology, into epistemology. Epistemology is proven knowledge. Proven, I've proved this. I've proven this. I know this for a fact. I've examined it. I've tested this. How do you ideology is not wrong by definition, guys. When we say this is ideological, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It means you haven't understood what is behind it. How did you come up with this? So methodology is literally the verification system that helped you know why do I believe in this. So methodology is in the middle that gets you to move from ideology to epistemology. So the Quran literally here is elevating the status of those people. What do they say in response? Inna wajadna aba'ana kadhalika yaf'alun. We've inherited this from our forefathers. Why do you reject this? The Quran is literally asking them, okay, think for yourselves. Hatu burhanakum. Bring your proof. Move from your inherited beliefs into justified beliefs, if you wish. Become conscious of your own biases. Become conscious of the things that you believe in and things that you reject. That is high science. That is high science. What the Quran introduced to the whole world is a scientific revolution. Is literally a scientific revolution. This can be taken as a slogan, by the way. If Muslims were a little bit more awake to the Quran, this can become, a slogan that we go by in our lives, on our academic institutions. Hatu burhanakum. Whatever theory you come up with, what is your proof for it? And when I say proof, again, it doesn't have to be like conclusively correct. The whole point is, does this make sense or not? Do I look consistent to you or not? Sometimes you can never prove something. We will never see God in this world, right? But I can make a good case that there is a creator. It's up to you whether to see the signs or not. That is your choice. But can I as a believer make a good case that God exists? And the rest, Allah is telling me, believe in ghaib, believe in the unseen. But I'm giving you enough signs to see this. So, am I consistent? Is my belief justified? This is epistemology. And the Quran says, Hatu burhanakum, bring your proofs. I don't want inherited stuff. I want justified stuff, if you wish. So thank you for this, Ahmad. Yeah, sure. Interesting. That opens definitely a kind of worms. That has been the fight over the last 8 centuries. Not our fight, not the Muslim fight. Muslims have been asleep for a good, 6, 7 centuries as well, but they had their own fights in European history. After, and I believe the Quran has been instrumental in the making of the modern world, even though this has not been recognized fully. This city had witnessed the birth of the guy called Abdelnour of Bath, who translated Arabic works into Latin. He was from Bath. That's his name, Abdelnour of Bath. Since the 12th century onward, up to the 15th century, when you had Francis Bacon, Descartes, and these guys, they started to see that we've inherited so many beliefs without having examined those. But this didn't happen first in humanities, it happened first in more physical sciences. This state of skepticism of how we do physics reached its peak with René Descartes, the French philosopher. Descartes came up with this idea that my first principles, any first principles that I begin with, have to be verified. I need to be doubting everything until I reach a certain first principle that cannot be doubted. Right? He applied this he was a mathematician, he applied this to mathematics. It succeeded. It applied this to various physical sciences and it succeeded, and that's why we ended up with the industrial revolution, blah blah blah. Right? This whole movement is called verificationism. That is, when you verify something, I want to verify. How do I verify something? You look for the supporting evidence. If I don't find any supporting evidence, I shouldn't believe in that thing. Right? This started in physics, in physical sciences. Reached its peak with Descartes. And then we'll see another Vienna circle and other guys that advance this. But Descartes becomes the key player in this. That's called verification. I need to verify my first principles before I. And then later on, it could call logical positivism. Maybe you could look into this. As in, I need to find, for me to have a positive contribution to science, I need to make sure that I have supporting evidence. Logical in the sense that I can speak of it logically into propositions. If A exists, B exists. Or, I mean, can I put it in analytical thinking, logical thinking? That's logical. And then positivism in the sense that it has to be, it's verifiable. How do I verify that God exists? You could tell there are signs in the universe, but I could tell you are just reading too much into those signs. You could be signs for something else. Give me something that's so solid, right? So verificationism is about that. Logical positivism is coming up with a positive proof, if you wish. The fight has been whether this way, this verificationism, is it applicable to humanities? Is it applicable to non-physical sciences? For a long time, like 200 years, there have been many attempts to apply these to humanities, more particularly to theology, discussions of God. That at some point, Immanuel Kant, who died in 1804, he argued that we cannot speak meaningfully of God because of this verificationism. I can't talk about it. Like, how do I know? What do I know? Right? Because I can't verify. For a good 200 years, this has been the case. Philosophers, scientists trying to apply what has been discovered in physics to theology, humanities, especially theology. In humanities in general, okay, I can argue, you can make a case for sociology, you can make a case for ethnography, you can make a case for anthropology, but to make a case to God, how do I do this, draw this analogy? Until the famous philosopher, modern philosopher, Karl Popper, came up with good verification. The opposite of verification would be falsification. Where the question becomes not how do I verify that God exists, but can I falsify that He exists? Which is a different question. As a believer myself, as believers ourselves, can I make a good case? Instead of asking, what verifies God's existence, I could actually reverse the question: what falsifies it? Right? Does this make sense? So this move has really changed the field dramatically, from verification into falsification. This verse is actually used in this falsification system. What does it do? Okay. The whole falsification theory is composed of a number of steps. The first one, you assume an opposite. لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله. Now I'm assuming with you that there are multiple gods. Then after that, you derive consequences. If we had multiple gods, there would be consequences of that. The consequences are. Then you derive consequences here. After that, you basically test those consequences against a reality. What we see. The final step, then you reject any contradiction. Let's apply this to this verse. The verse is saying, لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Let's assume there are multiple gods. That is, assuming the opposite. لَفَسَدَتَ. The consequence to this, the heavens and the earth would be in ruin. They would be destroyed, in conflict. And then what happens? I'm tested this against the reality, but the world is actually fine. Yes, there are issues, but there is a cosmic order, everything is functioning. You can't argue against this, it's a reality. Then I am rejecting the original opposite. That is falsification. لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. That's the essence of the falsification theory. Yes. The assumption? The assumption would be that God is one. There is one God. Because I'm applying this to this particular verse, and the discussion here is whether it's multiple gods or one God. Exactly. The assumption would be, okay, we have multiple gods. You can apply it to so many other examples, but I use this verse as Ahmed mentioned the verse. The case in point is to do with their claim. They claim there are multiple gods. Let's assume, okay, and Allah, the Quran is claiming there is one God. The Quran is saying, okay, let's for the sake of argument, let's concede. Let's assume the opposite of what I claim. I'm claiming there is one God, but I'm happy to assume there are multiple gods. I assumed there are multiple gods. I drive consequences. Okay, the whole world will be in chaos. I've tested this against reality. Is the world in chaos? No, it is not. It is actually in order. Then I'm gonna reject the contradiction. That's now. Oh, absolutely. Okay, why would they be? That's another great question. Why would they be in ruin? Sure. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, sure, exactly. As in, as in we function exactly. Mhm. The upper hand. Absolutely. So let's assume they are all powerful. Let's assume we have two gods. Both of them are powerful. Let's say one is in charge of the north and the other one is in charge of the south. I mean, it is a good chaos, but also it's just self-contradictory in the sense that if I am all-powerful, then I am capable of running the whole thing. Why do I need another one? Because it just goes against the whole essence of Godhead. Yes. Well. Absolutely. That's another example. Absolutely. So whatever you assume, you come up with absurd conclusions. So this verse is literally at the peak of justification, coming up with a strong scientific, and I use the word scientific in the generic meaning of it. The, good thing, the word for science in German, in Deutsch, is a lot more precise than in English. It's called Naturwissenschaft. which means basically physical knowledge. Wissenschaft is knowledge. Natur is nature. Naturwissenschaft is physical knowledge. Unlike the English word science, which makes you believe it's everything. It's too broad. Yeah. I hope this answers it. Okay. Perfect. So yeah. Oh, we already looked at those kind of here. Okay. Hmm. Oh, okay. You connected this to the stories in the Surah. Interesting. Interesting. I haven't thought of this before. Very insightful there, mashallah. MashaAllah. Thank you for that. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Yeah. It's the angels. Yeah. I think will be next week's passage. We will see the claim they make. So they make the claim they make is that the angels are the daughters of God, and Allah is saying, perhaps we'll say more on this next week, inshallah. That the angels, what they do is they are in complete devotion of Allah by day and by night. Yeah. Night. Hmm. ومن عنده. Um, hmm. It could definitely, the things that we don't know about the unseen world are a lot more than the things that we do know. We knew from other references in the Quran that the reference within this context is often to the angels. But does this mean that there are no other creatures that Allah created that we don't know of? Possibly, absolutely. Two? Other humans. Humans with Allah in heaven, yeah. Hmm. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah. Hmm. ولا يستحسنون يسبحون الليل والنهار لا يفترون أو اتخذوا آلهة مع الله يشركون. It's a bit of a, to me, will be more of a stretch than, uh, you can definitely make a case for other worlds if you wish. Al-Razi talks about in his interpretation of Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Why does Allah say, all praises due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds? He doesn't say the whole one world, just the whole. So as if the Quran is actually, proposing the idea of the multi-universe thing. It's the many other universes that we don't know. But in this particular verse, Allahu Alam, it could possibly be. But perhaps it's more consistent with the rest of the Quran, maybe our knowledge of the angels. Allahu Alam. Do you have anything else to add, Ya Abdullah? Oh. Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely, absolutely. Could have asked them, yeah. And they don't question what Allah does. Yeah, yeah. That definitely could be relevant. Absolutely. Abdullah. Which one? Uh-huh. Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting, interesting. Hmm. So, just a reference to the perfection of the heavens and the earth. What does that lead to? Just remind the people how perfect they are. Okay, interesting, interesting. Absolutely, absolutely. Especially the first point. Yes, yes. What does if someone is trying to find something to entertain them? What does that say about them? They get bored, which is like this is what we call anthropomorphism. You are literally projecting things, projecting human things or the divine figure. Thank you for that, Abdul Hakim. Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful, great. Sure, sure. These things are means to making us always, fixated on the aims, if you wish, or the objectives. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Ali. Hmm. So you said Allah is sharing His intention with us. Okay, that's really interesting, Ali. Absolutely. I mean, there is I was reading an article a couple of months ago on how do we view texts, the Quran, the Torah, the Gospels. What do they do? And what the author was arguing that what the texts essentially do is that they reveal God's intentions. Basically, without those texts, no way we could have arrived at the divine intentions. So Allah, yeah, definitely Allah could have, but of course Allah has a wisdom that He's sharing that with us. He's taking us seriously. He's reasoning with us, if you wish. Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. Thank you. Uh, why did you? Oh, you came late. Um, no, we've reached, I think, verse number 25? 25. It's fine, it's fine. Yeah, sure, sure. Well, I found لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. He doesn't get questioned about his actions, but they, meaning us, get questioned. What struck me about this verse, it has often been understood or misunderstood actually, as a, as a as if the Quran is saying you can never ask why God is doing this, why God is doing that, why did God allow this to happen, why. So the whole question of why has been somehow has become a taboo, like you can't ask why. And people would often cite this verse. That's as if this is the rules. This is the rule of the game. We don't get, he doesn't get questioned. We get questioned. He doesn't get questioned why, but we do. But the verse has nothing to do with this. So the verse has been standardized just as this. Like it is literally silencing curiosity. It's asking us not to be curious about God. Why does he do that? We can't ask him because he doesn't get asked, but we get asked, right? That's the standard interpretation. Sorry, the standard common understanding of this verse. But this verse is not about curiosity at all. It is literally about authority. It is saying, okay, Allah, there is, when I say someone doesn't get questioned, it means there is no authority over him. If someone gets questioned, that means what is it? There is someone I can go. So he is beyond questioning because he is literally the supreme authority. There is a verse, there is another reference in the Quran that might help you think with this. In Surah Al-Qasas, chapter number 28 of the Quran, the last page of the surah, chapter number 28, Surah Al-Qasas, the last page of the surah, there is perhaps, verse number 77 or 78. There is a verse that says, by the end of it, وَلَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذُنُوبِهِمْ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. And the verse is saying the wrongdoers or the criminals will never be questioned about the sins, about the misconduct. That statement has caused confusion, but what it says, nobody would dare to ask those criminals in this world. Because they think they are top authority, that we can't question them. But in the hereafter, they will be questioned. As if the Quran, otherwise the Quran becomes self-contradictory. Right? Because they will definitely be questioned. But what is at stake here is the concept of authority. They think there is no authority to question them. So this verse is literally saying this is the concept that's at stake here. That is authority. There is no one that is above God in authority that can question him. But these people, they will be questioned because God is above them. So it has nothing to do with curiosity. Otherwise, the whole Quran is full of asking curious questions. Unzuru, look into this, look into that, investigate this. I mean, it just literally says, Hatu burhanakum, bring your proof. So it's literally asking to be not just curious, to be really to exercise this at its peak. Right? But yet, this verse has taken a front seat when it comes to we can't ask this, there is nothing in Islam called we can't ask whatsoever. It just actually shows how much your mind is busy with God, which is good. If you're busy about something, you think, there is a famous English theologian. His name, good theologian, is more of a man of literature. C.S. Lewis. He has a funny statement, I think it's him, where he says, at times the atheists make you believe that they are the best theologians, in the sense that they are so busy with Allah. He can't do this, like a good God wouldn't do this, a good God wouldn't do that. No. That means you have a good concept of God. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. But of course, there's some inconsistency to this. Um, um, so it's not about silencing curiosity, but rather it is something. Authority is what stake here. Yes, yeah. No, it's you grades are you grades, not Allah's grades. Like it's you work. That's it. Why did you why do you blame God for that? Hmm. Because it could be some. Yes, yeah. Mm. Mm. No. Okay. I, I think they are both things, isn't it? Like, as in both cases, I don't view you as someone who can't be talked to. I think I can't talk to you about this. I need an explanation of this. With su'al and musa'ala, they both carry the same, yes, these are two different levels, yes, but they both involve one action. That is the one I'm asking for an interpretation, I'm asking for an explanation, whether through a conversation with you or someone who's authority above you or something. But it is one act. The question of job, for example, so many other elements apart from God acting arbitrarily are involved. As in, it could be someone who is more deserving of this job who got it. Maybe you haven't done your best in terms of preparation for the interview. Hundreds of other reasons that can come back to you, not to the job or not to God or something. But why do we, point the fingers towards Allah when it could be just us? But the Quran gives us a law, again, a universal law. Like if you exert efforts, you will always get good results. That's a good universal law. Tahmid, I think you had another one. We'll end with this one. وَعِنْدَهُ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِهِ. Or did you take it back? Okay. Mm. 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 Very true, very true. That is beautiful. Thank you for bringing this up, Ya Taqi. Definitely, definitely. Wallahi, I have the, whenever I pass by this verse, uh, I would have, very similar thought. Why does Allah tell us that the angels never get weary, never get tired, never be proud? They are just a constant worship. And we as humans, whenever we do something good, we quickly think, we deserve this, we deserve the Jannah, we deserve this, we deserve that. Ibn al-Qayyim talks about a concept of Sawlatul Ibadah. Sawla is like that sense of superiority that you get when you've done something good. I'm worthy of this. And this has become so common with us Muslims. Sawlatul ibadah. Because I think I'm a good fit. Allah is telling us, the angels, even though we never disobey, but we disobey. They never make mistakes, but we make mistakes. And they are in constant worship. And we like to think that they do this because they are machines. No, the angels are not like machines. No, they do this voluntarily, as in they chose to do that. The angels chose to do that. You should never think of the angels as machines. We've been trained to think of the angels as machines. They are not machines. Allah could have created machines. There will be no value to them. Angels are very valuable because they do this voluntarily. Literally. Because the next question would be it's fine. They can do it because Allah has made them this. No, they chose to be that way. That's why they never get tired. But we, again, with the smallest thing, we think we are something. We come to the conclusion, inshallah. A couple of minutes after, beyond our normal time. Thank you so much for the great contributions. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد